There's so many questions out there now, especially with the new clayers, on how to condition your clay. This is a brand new bar of white Primo sculpting, and I've had it for a while. And I lay it on its side and I cut it into pieces, because your pieces have got to be thin enough to go through your pasta machine without tearing up the gears. So this is a little bit harder clay. It's not dried out, it's just a little bit harder. And of course I didn't cut it evenly. So I'm going to roll it out. And flatten it out so I can put it through my machine. If you're hand rolling it to condition it, this is the same process. You just don't use your machine. You just roll it out, and you can put popsicle sticks, stack up playing cards, anything that will give you equal amounts on the same sides, equal height, and use an acrylic roller that's for polymer clay. And just roll it out. Using a pasta machine is not only easier to condition your clay, it's easier when you want the same thickness of your clay. So I'm going to start adding my pieces I cut together and rolling them out where I'll put them together. Some of them won't need rolled this much because they're not as thick. And sometimes I do this piece by piece. If the clay seems to where it's harder than this or a little bit dried out, I don't add anything to it until I'm sure I cannot get it conditioned. I don't like adding baby oils, or you don't add any type of food oil because they can spoil your clay later on, like coconut oil or vegetable oil or any of those. Don't use those. So this is what I have. Let me back it up so you can see it. There we go. This is what I have, and I'm going to run it through my pasta machine, which is an Atlas, on a number 1. And it has a motor, but it's not going to be loud because it's a little bit out of the way over here. My first pass doesn't do much except join them together a little bit better. So I'm going to fold it on top of itself and run it through again. And I'm going to continue doing this and decreasing the thickness. I will take it thinner each time I go down through until it's all blended together very well. And you always put the side that you fold in your pasta machine first so it pushes the air out the top. This side in first. I took it down to a number 3. Now we'll take it down to a number 5. And it's already nice and conditioned. The thinner you go with it, the more probability of air bubbles. So make sure that you put that folded in your pasta machine next to the rollers first, the side you fold. Right here. This side goes in first. And I want this piece on a number 3, which is not quite a medium setting, but not a large setting. Okay, now my clay is fully conditioned and ready to use for no matter what. If you want to do a Skinner blend, you cut it from here. If you want to do a texture sheet, you put the texture sheet down, put your clay on your texture sheet. If you want to use texture rollers, roll over it. Any technique that you want to do, alcohol inks, whatever, to get your design or make a cane or anything, this is ready to go now. Now I have this crumbly clay, as you can see, and it's been sitting out on my work surface in this state for a couple of months because I didn't want to fool with it. I didn't have time to fool with it. If your clay is this dry, it takes a little bit more conditioning time. Once your clay is conditioned, if it's real sticky, then lay it in between 2 pieces of white copy paper and leach it for a little bit. Put a little bit something heavy on it, a heavy book or something, and watch it, because the papers will draw out the oils in the clay and make it to this consistency. So watch it and check it all the time to make sure if it's too sticky that it just brings out enough oils to make it workable. With this, I want to try, this has been actually run through a pasta machine at one point, and that was about as far as I got with it because it was just too dry to do anything else with. And what you need to do is roll it with a brayer or a roller. If it's real crumbly, you can actually put it in a heavy baggie and take a hammer to it and hammer it to where it starts looking like this, where the pieces are coming together more. Because you want to work these plasticizers together, and that's what will hold your clay together. Now, I haven't added any oils to this or even clay softener. Sculpey has a liquid clay softener and a clay softener that looks like clay. Both work extremely well. And I try not to use anything unless I absolutely have to. And if I have to, my case is going to be, I have the liquid clay softener by Sculpey. And I'm sure there's other brands out there. And, but you can get it to where you add too much and then it goes to the sticky part and it's just not workable again, and you've got to leach it. So this conditioning process can take a little time, but it's real important to get your clay to the right consistency before you start working on it. And as you can see, this is coming together quite nicely. And so far, I haven't done anything but roll over top of it. So let's see what happens when I go to pull it up with my blade. Well, it's sticking together enough in most places. We'll take the loose parts out and we'll condition them. I have a pile of them right here. We'll condition that part in a second. My goal is to get all of this clay conditioned together so it will be usable. Okay, I can at least pick it up, and I'm going to run it through my pasta machine to see if I can get it together. And under my pasta machine, I put a piece of paper or cling wrap or parchment paper or something underneath it, so when it crumbles coming out the bottom of my pasta machine, I don't have a huge mess and everything's all on one paper I can pick up. Let's see what happens. That's the first time rolled through, and that's on a number 2. And here's a piece of scrap saran wrap that caught my extra colors that came off. And I'm going to run this through a couple of more times. I'm not going to worry about the loose parts that are falling off. I'm going to do those separately. Okay, so it took me a couple of minutes, not very long. And I started this on a number 2 when it looked like this and was crumbling. Kept folding it as best I could, running it through the pasta machine on a number 2. Then I kept going down in the thickness and made it thinner and thinner and thinner, folding it and running it through. And this is on a number 7. And as you can see, it's together and conditioned. Everything's working with it. It's very flexible and pliable. It's not tearing apart. So let me get this part that's still real dry and not work together to the point of this. And then I can put the two together and then start working it back up to the thickness that I need. Okay, the only thing I've done is roll this clay out. I put it together in a pile, rolled it out with my acrylic rod, and will slide my blade under it and get it up in one piece as best as I can. I'm going to add these other little pieces in there. I have to roll that again to get those to stick. But remember, I have not added any oils or softeners to this at all. This is just a little bit of patience and working the clay through on thinner settings as you go down your settings on your pasta machine. So I'm going to start with a number 2, run it through a couple of times, and take it down to a number 7 so it'll match this sheet. Okay, here's my 2 sheets, both rolled out on a number 7. No oils, no clay softeners, nothing added to them. As you can see, I can pick it up and place it where I want it to be without it falling apart. I guess I'm old school. I've been doing this so many years in the art field that I believe in using the product you have and see how far you can get it without adding any other products. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's just a little bit more work, but you don't take any chance of, ruining the consistency of your product, no matter what it is, if you just keep working with it a little bit. Also, the thinner it is, the more air bubbles it's going to have in it. So you need to watch for them. And if you put too many thin layers folded together through a thin setting, it's going to strip your gears. So when you're going up and down in your settings, be careful of how thick your clay is and be aware of what setting it's on. So this is double, so I will take this up to a number 5 or a 6, fold it again, and what I want to do is work it back up to a good consistency of number 3. See the air bubbles in there? If those don't push out, I'll take them out, but they should push out. Okay, I took this all the way down to number 7 on my atlas, slowly folded it, brought it back up, thicker settings. This is on a number 1, and as you can see, the sides where I folded it is still crumbly. So I wanted it a number 3. I'm going to do a Skinner blend with the white. So I want it on a number 3. And so I'm going to run this through a couple more times on setting 2. And then take it down to a setting 3. And then we'll be ready to start the next video, which is going to be on how to do a 2-part Skinner blend. Okay, so here's my white. Remember, it came directly right out of the package. White Primo. It's a little bit sticky, but not enough to where I can't work with it, because I'm going to do a Skinner blend with this. This is just a silicone mat I laid between the 2 pieces of clay so they wouldn't stick together. And this is my turquoise. The old crumbly turquoise. No oils, no softeners, no nothing. Just patience and adding it little by little to your pasta machine, taking down the settings. So these 2 pieces of clay, let me put my silicone sheet back on there so they don't stick, are ready to be cut and blended together in a Skinner blend. So I hope this helps with your all's conditioning. Like I said, I've been doing some sort of art for over 60 years, and I believe that products are made for good reason, and you should use products that are made for polymer clay to do the job. There's enough products for polymer clay out there with sealers or liquid or clay type softeners. It's just like I used to decorate cakes and I wouldn't use alcohol inks to color icing if I was doing a wedding cake and needed that color. Just because I needed that color of alcohol ink doesn't mean I'd actually add alcohol ink or, chalk pastels or something into my icing to get the color what I needed. I would use a cake coloring for the icing. Same thing with polymer clay. Use the products that's made for the clay. There's experts out there that's made the products, and you take a bigger chance of something happening down the road, and it may be 2 or 3 years, it may be 10 or 15 years before it falls and breaks apart because of something you added to it on the inside, and it's taken that long for that clay to disintegrate or to remain sticky if it's a sealer of some sorts. So you do your research and use what's intended to be used for your clay. So I hope this helps with your conditioning. It's not that hard, it just takes time sometimes. And remember, if this is just a little bit too sticky, leach it between 2 pieces of copy paper with a little bit of weight and check it frequently. The new Ceranet that's out, because right now with the clay shortage, what clay we're getting is fresh. And the new Ceranet is sticky. It will condition and get to this point, but it will be a little bit too sticky to work with. And if you put it between 2 pieces of copy paper and leach it, just for like 2 or 3 minutes, it's fine. If you're using cutters and your clay's a little bit sticky and sticking in your cutter, dust it with a little bit of cornstarch. Not a whole lot, just a little bit all over your clay, and then cut out your clay. It'll work right back into your clay and not hurt it. But it will make the clay release from your cutters, especially if they're little tiny ones. So until next time, blessings.